different types of places and even the different eras this movie is set. But I have to be fair, in a way, who cares? What we want is the overall, what it looks like on the movie. And even taking into account that this came out on the big screen, what it would look like on the superb IMAX, super good big screen, it will obviously look much better and show much more details and thus inaccuracies than on my cheap Asus laptop I have in front of me. But still, I can sort of see how accurate it looks there and think, even on a big screen, it will still look fairly accurate. It will still be fairly impossible to tell the difference, except if one use like the biggest, best HD screen and paused and was an actual dye expert. Unlike me, I'm not a dye expert. And then it would take a magnifying glass and zoom in on the precise pause the scene and try to see, has that coat been dyed using a chemical manner or a vegetable-based dye, and then which subtype of vegetable-based dye, if he came to the conclusion it had been dyed with a vegetable-based dye, and which type of vegetables, and blah 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 blah. I just know by principle that none of those in general are generally dyed using the machines, the chemicals, processes that they would have done. But overall, it looks alright, because, for example, in a series like Paul Dark, which the new one I saw on my HD flat screen in France back 3 years ago, a lot of the Paul Dark is set mostly in the late 18th century, and they did not begin even like the most advanced scientists, did not begin to create chromium-based. Basically, the big difference is that vegetable-based tan use tenancies. There's a video by Gentleman Gasset explaining precisely the video is 20 minutes long at least, precisely the processes of vegetable dyes using, and then it is much longer to use a vegetable dye, and so by 1810, some very advanced scientists, probably from Britain, which was the most advanced place on earth back then, started to think how to industrialize, how to make more long-lasting colors that will withstand more washes and still look bright and good, and create more colors, create brighter colors that could not be done until then, except if one was very rich, using very specific types of vegetables that were not, or whatever things they were using, which were not available to most people, especially in certain places that may not, like in Europe, where they may not have had those said vegetables to make that precise hue of color and all, and that's the reason for which purple for a very long time could only be procured with a lot of wealth, and thus with the royalty color, only nobles and royalty with a lot of money could actually acquire, and even then, as soon as they washed it started to go away. So by 1810 they started thinking, theorizing how to, basically what became the chromium-based dye, which cheats in the sense that it produced the earth to some extent, and even bad for one's health, even because one obviously inhales some of the fibers. What we are inhaling right now is all chromium-based probably, and thus to some extent bad for the health, but it can create more dyes and all, and so they advanced into chromium-based dye. And basically, by that year, 1846, it had advanced to such a point it even had invented arsenic dye, which arsenic dye cannot be surpassed today, so they stopped doing it. But it will create color. I saw a blasted dress on the internet, and I was 100% sure this was a reproduction because it looked so bright, and I just thought, and this was cut in an 1860s fashion for a woman. And so I thought, in the 1860s, even had they managed to create such a bright, chemical-looking, it was a bright green with stripes of bright purple, chemical-looking color, how would it, even had the dress never been worn, never been taken out of the cupboard from a room that would never surpass 25 degrees Celsius or never go below 25 degrees Celsius with a perfect level of humidity, not too much, not too dry, even then I thought it would be impossible after 150 years for the damn dress to look so bloody bright and new-like. But really it actually was from, I think, 1866. And the damn thing had been worn and perhaps even cleaned once in water. And still, it's actually with acid dye, using arsenic, chromium-based dye, which bases itself using an arsenic, which is very poisonous and very dangerous and especially very inflammable. What it does is it is the best to create any type of color, however bright and chemical-like and impossible to do, however which one is with other vegetables and natural things. And so they started being able to create these super bright colors that they did not even, those colors really did not sort of exist before now. And also the best to basically really dye the fabric, whatever it is, whether it be leather or whatever, into the most tattooed possible manner.